Hi guys, I have a free day today, so it's playtime. Today it's going to be a full day of chemistry, and when I think of chemistry, that's pond chemistry, I always think of Lao. She loves water chemistry and science. So what we're going to do today is give you an update. I haven't done it in a while, and it's an update on my filter hack experiment. If you haven't seen the two previous videos, I'll put a link down below. But I'll try to read. As many of you know, I have this trickle-in system in my pond. If I don't have a trickle-out system, I would flood this area here as the water spills, and it will flood this area here, turning it all soggy. So what I did is create a couple of siphons. I used these airline tubes to siphon water out of the pond and into the basement. As water with nutrients flow through these holes, a biofilm will be created in these holes that would consume ammonia and the type of bacteria that consumes ammonia are nitrifying bacteria, and they would turn it into nitrate. When all the oxygen is used up by the nitrifying bacteria, there are these bacteria called facultative bacteria that would use up nitrate and turn nitrate into nitrogen gas. These facultative bacteria are also called denitrifying bacteria. They are also called heterotrophic bacteria. So it's a good time to follow up on this nitrate filter hack experiment, because my nitrates as well as my nitrites are increasing. That is due to the increase in water temperature. Is when the nitrifying bacteria are thriving. It is also a good time to follow up on this experiment, because at this time of the year I slow down the siphon really slow, because I tend to use or harvest the water instead of trickling it out. I tend to use the water to water the plants and the grass. You can also see how the guts of this filter system works now that it is exposed. Now that I don't have the venting there anymore. Without further ado, we'll start. And in this update, I'm going to be testing all of the water parameters and comparing both the pond parameters and the parameters of the water coming out of my nitrate filter hack. We will start with pond water nitrate. So this is very interesting. My nitrate level is lower than last week when I tested that it was my nitrates were increasing. So now it's like 5 ppm. It was 10 to 20 ppm just last week. I used a new bottle of nitrate because the old one was running out of drops, and I didn't want to run out of drops during this experiment. So I tested it again with the new bottle, and it's the same, so it's very consistent. So I went back to the old bottle, and I think I had only the last little bit of drops left, but it made it. I put 10 drops in each. I was able to use 10 drops of each bottle 1 and bottle number 2, and this is what I got with the old bottle, and it shows just like last week. It was reaching anywhere from 10 to 20 ppm, reaching or heading towards 40. So I learned something new, and this goes to show that there are even inconsistencies between the new bottles and the old bottles of nitrates, even though the bottles have the same expiry. Maybe next time I won't use the very last drops of my nitrate test kits. And it has been said that it's always better to have 2 sets of test kits in case you get wacky results such as these. Also good to know that I can feed more. On to our experiment here, and there's a bit of a twist in that both siphon system have stopped dripping. I slowed it right down very slowly, and now it's stopped. That's because there's a lot of biofilm or sludge that's blocking the system now. Now that it's summer, the growth of these bacteria is skyrocketed, and you'll see that in your filters. What's interesting here is that my theory is that the tube is so blocked with biofilm that whatever water that's inside has become septic. That means it might be producing hydrogen sulphide, but I think in theory that for sure that when the water stops like this, there will be reduced or hardly any nitrates in the water in the tube, because in the tube it would have turned septic. That means like hydrogen sulphate might be produced. So I smelled the water, and it's kind of manky, but I don't smell any hydrogen sulfide. So let's test this water now for nitrates, and there is your result. Nitrate of 0, as yellow as can be, tested twice. So they say when the water turns septic, all the dead bacteria in there will deteriorate and start releasing ammonia back into the water. We'll test this water for ammonia, and this water does stink. And wow, you can tell already that's gonna be high. I'd be surprised if it registers a number at all, because this ammonia reader reads low reading. Oh my god, look at that. It did register, and it registered um, 3 ppm of ammonia nitrogen. Alert! Alert! I'm having so much fun. Should we do nitrite? Stop this video right now and have a guess whether it'll register nitrite. Biologically, there shouldn't be any nitrites because the bacteria that would convert ammonia to nitrate would be dead. This is because these types of bacteria need oxygen, and in that septic tubing, all the oxygen has been depleted. So stop this video now and have a guess. You got 14 minutes. And the nitrite level is 7. It's very similar to my pond nitrite level. Time for lunch, but before going for lunch, I'm gonna check what the TDS is of this water. I had to refill it with the drip water from the nitrate filter hack tube, but it was a slow drip and the water still stinks. So we'll do the TDS, and they say with dead and dying bacteria, they tend to mineralize. That means they go from complex, like when they're alive, to not so complex when there are actually chemicals in atoms. So when they are in the atom form, it'll register as higher TDS. So with all that bacteria there, I would guess that all the bacteria there that's dead and have died, such as the nitrifying bacteria, there'd be more minerals and therefore higher TDS in this water, this manky water. Anyways, time for lunch. Well, I got another surprise. I thought it'd be higher than that. My pond water usually reads 170 these days, and this manky smelly water only reads 180. Actually, I'm not that surprised, because you see all that goodness in there. They're bacteria. They might not be nitrifying bacteria, because apparently with the biofilm, a good mature biofilm, only 10% of the bacteria are nitrifying bacteria, so those are dead. The rest here are probably facultative bacteria, and they're still alive. They haven't released any minerals. So that's the theory anyways. But I'll tell you what, to test that theory, we will kill all these bacteria in here. I'm not usually a murderer, but for science, this is what we'll do. So what I'll do is put this cup into a microwave and kill all those bacteria, and when bacteria dies, they lyse. That means they go into some sort of apoptosis. That means they pop and they release all their minerals and guts. So let's do it. Oh God, look at this microwave. It's embarrassing, but let's do this. 1 minute. there you go, all dead. I'm gonna let this cool down a bit while I have lunch. So now that the water is cool and the bacteria in that water is all dead, and we'll see what the TDS is now. There you go, 200. That's a significant increase. So I guess a lot of the bacteria have spilled out its content, including you know, its sodium and all this magnesium and calcium into the water, and the TDS detected that. So just to recap, because I've giving you a lot of information and I'm not a teacher or a scientist. Okay, so recap. My siphons fresh oxygenated water. It goes through into the basement, heading out the other end, and within the long tube here there is oxygen gradient, or there will be an oxygen gradient. At the very front end, there'll be a lot of oxygen, and it'll be used up by the nitrifying bacteria and turn the nitrate. So it turned the ammonia into nitrate, and then going down the oxygen gradient, there will be facultative bacteria that would use up the nitrates and turn it into nitrogen gas. But there are also some bacteria when the oxygen gets so low, for example, when the tube gets plugged, the oxygen gradient will be so low that there will be other bacteria besides the facultative bacteria, and I think that's called sulfur bacteria, that can use sulfate instead. Remember, the best I can understand it is that sulfate contains oxygen too, because it's designated as O4. That's sulfur with four oxygen attached to it. And these sulfur bacteria can use that oxygen to produce hydrogen sulphide, which is I believe now that I believe that's what I'm smelling here. Anything that smells funny could be some sort of hydrogen form, or sort of sulfide form. So for example, if you smell perhaps thiosulfate or some of the dechlorinators, it would smell of sulfur. So that's what you smell. It smells really funky. So now I've just demonstrated for the first time using this nitrate filter hack that you can actually destroy nitrate using this filter, but you'll have to go to the lowest oxygen gradient in order to do it. Obviously, this won't work in a pond environment, because then you'll have to plug it for a while, then drain it, plug it and drain. So plug and drain, and then you'll have water that doesn't contain any nitrates, but it would have stinky water full of what I assume as hydrogen sulfide. and that is toxic to fish. What apparently to circumvent that is that before you place that water back into the pond, what you can do is aerate it, put a bubbler on that water to turn hydrogen sulphide back into sulfate, and then you can put it back in the pond. So what we need to do is discover the perfect drip rate, so that it doesn't go down to that very end of the oxygen gradient, where the tube gets plugged and we end up producing hydrogen sulfide. We need some sort of micro oxygenated environment. And I've had in previous experience both sides of the spectrum. Whereas the flow rate is too fast, this filter becomes a nitrifying machine where ambient ammonia, even undetectable by this panometer, will produce more nitrate than what's in the pond. And now today we've discovered the other end, where we go down to the lowest oxygen gradient. We have 0 nitrate, but we end up having a plug tube and hydrogen sulfide. So right now it seems very far for me to prove a nitrate filter that would filter the water. We just filter the water of nitrates with just one pass through a filter such as this. But if I do it, it would be one of the first, because most purported nitrate filters, it's very hard to prove, because the water has to go through the filters over and over and over, and there's so many different factors that it's very hard to prove whether an anoxic filter actually works. So now we will attempt one more time, and I'm sure this won't be the last. So you know, downstairs we found the the tubing to be plugged, and we discovered hydrogen sulfide. So it's been a few minutes now, and maybe an hour actually, that I've opened the valve to have it drip very slowly. Now, in that tubing, the siphon, it is, I believe, has dead nitrifying bacteria. So we will eliminate that factor out of the equation. We will have only denitrifying bacteria in there, and we will see if it will reduce the nitrate coming out of the pond. I'll show you guys. So now, as you can see, the drip rate on this is very, very slow. And in this tubing here remains what we know are live denitrifying bacteria, devoid of nitrifying bacteria. So whatever nitrates that are in the pond are from the pond itself, not created in the tube. And there will be, just because there's movement of water, there is oxygen in there, perhaps micro oxygen in there, very little oxygen, and that kind of environment, the denitrifying bacteria will turn nitrates into nitrogen gas. So we're just waiting until we have enough water here in order to do a nitrate test. It's getting late. Time for another coffee. Decaf. Thank you guys for sticking around with me this far. It's becoming to be a long video. So what I have here is the new water, and it doesn't smell like hydrogen sulphide. It should be enough for a 0.00001 water change, and hopefully it will have reduced nitrates somewhere between here and here. Hopefully it would be a detectable difference from this one here, such that I don't have to use my photometer to detect the difference in color. So here we go. Shake it again. I shook it a lot already, but just to make sure. Well, there you go, guys. There is definitely a reduction in nitrates there between this one and this one. And just to make sure, I did the test over again, and here's the retest. So there's definitely a reduction in nitrates between the pond water here and the nitrates coming out of that nitrate filter hack. Yep, I don't need a photometer to tell the difference in the color between these two nitrate levels. And this is the first time ever that it has been demonstrated that there's a certain filter that can actually reduce nitrates with just one pass through a filter. Ever. So you can see how happy I am. Time for some water change.
It's about
time for dinner.
True crime.
You got only the onions. You have to refilm it.
Thanks, cook.
Dinner.